Welcome everyone to another episode of Exploring Concept Art with me, your host, Jason Etienne. So today we're going to be exploring character designs and just how to come up with ideas and some little tips and tricks for doing techniques and things like that. So as you can see, all I'm doing at the moment, I've just been sort of having to play around really with the brushes, just making sure I've got all my sort of brushes in order and the smudge tools in order and the eraser tool. So all I'm doing at the moment really is just doing a little bit of drawing, a bit of sketching, warming up my hand. So I do advise that you do this before you start doing any painting. It's just random sketches, just trying things out, trying brush sizes, seeing how it what sort of textures you come up with. So what is it? You're looking to do, and what's the genre? And references. So references are really important for when you're doing character design. So go into Google, have a look at the human form, have a look at animal anatomy, and even insect anatomy, because this is kind of what I'm looking at. And I've got some robot anatomy, if you can call it anatomy. So these are the elements that I'm wanting to include in my design. So I'm just marking it out, sketching the character out. Generally speaking, characters are sort of 7 to 8 to 9 heads high. I think I did this at around about sort of 7 and then changed it to 8. So as you can see, I'm just sort of sketching out the body. Now I would advise maybe you put like a sort of stick figure in there initially. I've just sort of jumped the gun a little bit. I'm going straight to just sketching out the sort of character. Started running out a bit of space, so I'm just reducing it, putting the feet in there, and just getting the general sense. And after I've done that, I'm just sort of blocking it in really, solid colour, well, black, and playing around with this, just trying things out. I tried this thing out with the leg, it wasn't quite working, and but yeah, basically kind of got the form I wanted. Then I start bringing in reference images. So you can either, import these just to kind of look at, or even sort of sample from them. I mean, not necessarily to kind of use these things as they are, but use them for the values, for the colours. Sample the colours, or even maybe take part of that photograph and put it into your design. Obviously, you don't want to be sort of using people's photography and presenting it as your own, of course. This is purely for using it for the values. So what I'm doing here is I'm just really copying in, putting some of these references in here, and then when I've sort of got them in place, this is when I start really firming up the character. So the idea I've got is some kind of warrior, but he's kind of got this kind of possible like exoskeleton or kind of armour that he's got on there, and I quite like the kind of bugs on the right. I like the colours there, and it's got this kind of like turquoise kind of metallic colour. So what I'm doing here really is just kind of, again, just sketching in the shapes that I want, and then I'm going to use some of these photos, well, primarily the insect photos, to basically put into these shapes and then sort of paint with them using the smudge tool. Don't worry too much about putting details in with the hands. Lots of people want to kind of put, or the inclination is to kind of put the fingers in and all that kind of stuff. Just a suggestion. That's all you really want, is a suggestion. So as you can see here, all I'm doing is I'm blocking it out. I'm putting some kind of tones in there. This all can change, of course, and it will change. So what I'm doing is I've cut with the lasso tool. I've cut part of that kind of insect eye out, and I'm just kind of working it into this character's kind of headgear. I'm still not entirely sure where it's going to go. I'm thinking it's possibly some kind of helmet. It then starts to kind of evolve into a kind of almost like a sort of space helmet. I've got some little antennae on there, which I think I'll lose a little bit later. So it's mainly the colours. I really like the colours on this, and this is what I'm using it for. So I'm kind of, in a sense, painting with the photograph. I take part of the photograph and then paint with it. Yes, I could kind of put those colours in myself, but sometimes it's good just to kind of work with something that you haven't created and then adapt it into something that is your own creation. So yeah, so just really put in some little bits and bobs in here. It's probably a little bit unnecessary to put this level of detail in at this point, but I couldn't quite resist it. I wanted to kind of at least just create some kind of character in the character's face, and then continue working. So I'm using this kind of top bug for a lot of the suit. So this is like a sort of breastplate now that I'm weaving in there, using the I've forgotten the name of it now, the warp tool on the image, and smudging it, playing around with it, seeing what it looks like, and then I move off that. And I often do this, and you probably do the same. I'll start working on something, and then I'll just kind of move away from it, and I'll start working on something else. I'll put a bit of detail on something, and then I'll move away. It's just how I work. It tends to be kind of fairly non-linear. So I won't spend a long time on something. I'll kind of flip between different elements of the drawing and then sort of come back to it. One of the things I've kind of found, and I think I was watching one of those familiar with Feng Zhu and his tutorials. It talks a little bit about this, about boredom. You've got to watch out for that when you're working on doing digital drawings. It's quite easy to kind of get bored when you've been working on something for a long time, and a way of dealing with that is to move on to something else. He does this where he has one drawing and he'll literally move on to another drawing. I'm not necessarily doing that here, but what I'm doing is I'm flitting between elements of the drawing, just so I don't get fatigued, because the moment you start getting fatigued, you start making kind of mistakes, and they're not and these aren't happy accidents. These are kind of, it'll set you down a road that you really don't want to go down, and you could end up basically nosediving your entire design. So you've got to sort of stay fresh. So if you feel like you're getting a little bit kind of bored of one part of the drawing, just move on, do something else, or part of the painting, move on and do something else. So once I've kind of got that photograph, migrated it onto the drawing and then worked into it, and then actually sampling from my own drawing, I'm also playing around with the hue. So I wanted to kind of change the hue. I wanted to kind of create this kind of two-tone element, you know, like you get on some beetles where they've got lots of reds and greens and yellows, you know, in the shell. So I kind of wanted that kind of effect on there. So again, I was kind of quite inspired by the sort of gorilla in the top left-hand corner as well. So I like this idea of just having, I wasn't entirely sure what it was. It was just this kind of fur kind of coming out from the shoulders, and it's almost like kind of, I don't know, it's just kind of, it could even just be part of the fashion, you know, this like a sort of warrior culture that's kind of evolved high tech but still kind of keeping hold of some of those things. So this idea of this kind of fur are quite light, you know, just kind of almost like a, not necessarily, yeah, like a bit like a pelt, but just kind of having this thing on the shoulders. So again, just here, I wasn't quite happy with the head shape, and I kind of played around with that a little bit, warped it, and then I think I undid the entire thing. I think I just wasn't really very happy with it. So I just literally did Control-Alt-Z, took it all back, and then kind of worked on it. You find this, you know, you've got to be able to take chances with your painting and your drawing. If you start playing it safe, it'll end up rigid, it'll end up boring, and you won't find anything out about yourself and about what you're capable of. So don't be afraid to make mistakes. Don't be afraid to play around. And I've done plenty of drawings and paintings in the past where it all goes south, it all goes wrong, and it's just the price you pay when you're playing around with ideas. It's not all gold. You do some things, and it's like, oh no, it's all gone wrong, and sometimes it's completely unsalvageable. So even if you kind of try and kind of press on with it and persevere with it, that's the word I was looking for, to persevere with it, there's no payoff. but there's always some value in there. So don't ever think there's kind of wasted time in what you're doing. There's always something to learn, even if it's, you know, not to do it in a certain way. So don't be afraid to kind of play around, experiment. You'll find sometimes with experimenting, it throws off ideas about other things, and possibly other ideas for future paintings and drawings. I think one of the worst things to do as an artist, I mean, it's okay to be inspired by other artists, and you know, even sort of use, I don't mean like use their work, but kind of be inspired by their work. That's useful, but one of the worst things I think to do is seeing something you really like and then copying it, which is okay in principle. It's all right to kind of copy because you can learn a lot about the artist's technique. But I have seen a lot of art online where it's very kind of generic, where you see similar kind of motifs in different artists' work, and it's just over and over and over and over again. Just over and over and over again. And as a sort of digital artist, as an artist in general, but certainly working with Photoshop, you want to kind of, particularly if you're like a young student and you're wanting to create a really good portfolio, you want something that's different. You want to create something that's, you know, when you get art directors, whether that's in film or in video games, they're looking for originality. They're looking for something kind of different, and there are so many people doing things that are exactly the same. So your challenge is to really do something that's really breaking the mold, something that's quite different, that's quite striking, but that yours, right? So just to reiterate, it's absolutely fine, you know, if you want to kind of like copy an artist's kind of technique and style to kind of learn how they've done things. There's nothing fundamentally wrong in that, as long as you're not taking their artwork. That's absolutely fine. But then to kind of to replicate that ad nauseum and to do it over and over and over again, you're not really learning anything. It's like anything in life, really. If you just do the same thing over and over and over again, sure, you can become accomplished in doing it, but you won't really grow as an artist. And one of the things that you really do need to do as an artist is grow or to evolve, because if you're not evolving, your work's going to stagnate. If it stagnates, you lose something. You lose the spirit really of what you're attempting to do. And art, and for any artists out there, you know, listen to this, you'll know this, you know, and for anyone who's just starting out in art, this is something for you to know, is that being an artist is a journey. It really is a journey, and you never stop learning. You never stop learning anyway. I mean, I'm a teacher. I teach game design at university, and even as a teacher, I'm always learning things. Someone once said, you know, you I can't remember what it was now. They said you learn through teaching. Interestingly enough, which is kind of it kind of sounds a little bit absurd, really, that you learn through teaching, but it makes sense because it's a way for you to. When you're teaching something, you're also externalizing it, you're vocalizing it, you're showing it, and it's also teaching you, if that makes sense. So very often when we talk out loud or we talk to a friend, you know, we could talk about a problem or an issue, and very often, you know, the friend hasn't said really anything. You've kind of done all the talking, and then you say thank you at the end of it, or thanks for listening, you know, and they'll often sort of say, well, I didn't really do anything, and that's because I think as kind of human beings, this is what we do. We need to externalize things to make sense of it back to ourselves, if that makes sense, or maybe it doesn't, I don't know. But the point I'm making is this: as an artist, it's your job to really keep learning and keep growing. That doesn't necessarily mean changing your style every 5 minutes, but what it does mean is you have to experiment. You have to try different techniques out, different styles, things like that. Anyway, enough of that. So I've been working on this now excuse me, for quite a while. I've been cutting and pasting some of the legs out. I wasn't quite happy with them, and putting some kind of shapes in there. it's pretty much getting close to being finished now. Also, don't be afraid to copy and paste what you've been doing. So if you've done one arm, copy and paste it. And if you're doing like a sort of, let's say this was a design for a video game character, you'd be expected to kind of do a front view, side view, back view. This is so the modelers can kind of see what you're doing. But yeah, it's just I'm losing my thread. It's important to not be afraid to kind of copy and paste what you're doing, try things out. So you can see here, I've been doing this all the way along. I got quite to the end. I realised, oh, his arms are too short. Your arm should really come about sort of 2/3 of the way down your thigh, and I realised they're too short. So just watch out for stuff like that. You know, I've been painting for many years, and you know, stuff like that can catch you off guard. So yeah, so pretty much coming to a close now. You'll see I'm just kind of nitpicking, really, just putting little kind of touches in there. I'm still trying to keep it loose. I didn't really work on the hands, put a little drop shadow in there, but that's pretty much it. It's pretty much over by the shouting. That's something for me to go on. I could continue working on it, but I think I'm pretty much going to leave it there. Just putting a few final touches on it, and yeah, I was toying with the idea of putting some lights in there, and I think eventually I kind of took those away as well. So this is really just putting little kind of tweaks and things like that on there, scaling it down. I'm just taking these photographs out now, just to kind of show the design in its entirety. But that's pretty much it. So hope you've enjoyed the video. Hope it's been useful. If you've got any questions, feel free to leave some comments below. I'm now on Patreon, by the way, so if you are that way inclined, feel free to subscribe and support me. And that's it for this week. And yeah, good luck with your painting, and thanks for watching.